Hi everyone, this is Melissa from Tassie Stitches. Thanks so much for coming back for another week to listen to me talk about my cross stitch. If you're new here, I hope you find something that you'd like to come back to watch again. And again, if you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. So over the last week, I've worked on 10 projects, and again, I've put in my pretty standard 3,500 stitches, and I've had a finish. So I'll start off with the finish today. So I finished just a small one through my temperature stitching. So this is the number 3. I did find out which magazine this comes from. So this was from the Cross Stitcher magazine from the March 2025 issue. And it's from their kitchen alphabet. So that's the number 3. And that only took me 45 stitches or 91 back stitches to actually complete. So that wasn't, like I said last week, that wasn't far from finishing. But I'm glad it's done. First finish for the year, yay. And so that one will be replaced on temperature stitching by another whip. So then let's move into what I got done for temperature stitching last week. So I do temperature stitching the same way as Jen the Caffeinated Crafter. And I believe she took what Siska Stitches was doing and altered it slightly. I'm doing what Jen was doing before her second most recent iteration. So I'm taking the last digit of the temperature and turning that or using that to choose which whip I'm actually working on. So the last digit 0 through 9. So that the number 3 was assigned to the number 2. It's a bit confusing, but anyway. So next up, I've got baskets. So this one I put in 200 stitches, and this is assigned to the number 8. So again, like I said, this one is baskets. This is stitched on a piece of 28 count even weave that I dyed myself in the colourway Donkey. And it's using the Valdani threads, and it's a Rosewood Manor pattern. So I worked over here on this side this week and just filled in stitches. So I finished the back stitching up here, did a bit of work in this pot, tidied up a few flowers on this last thing, and then started filling in a bit of the flowers and greenery down here. So it's a bit hard to see progress on this one, and this will stay on as a temperature whip until it's finished. I'm hoping it will only take a couple more goes to actually get it done. Now I took a piece of Q-snap off then, and I don't know where it went. Oh, I'll just put that up there. Okay, so next up was Art Deco Cafe. So this is a piece by Box and Fox on Etsy, and I'm stitching it on a piece of 25 count Zweigart fabric. I don't know the colourway because I picked it up from like a scrap leftover table from my LNS, but it is like a rusty red colour. So this is 1/1 on 25 count, and I did 200 stitches, and they were done over here in the brown. And if I don't say, I stitch all my projects in the call for DMC unless otherwise stated. So with the baskets, it was the Valdani threads. Next up was Summer Montage. So this is assigned to the number 3, and I did 100 stitches on this one. This piece is charted by Pain Free Crafts, and the artist is Janet Stever. It is unfortunately now a retired product, as are all of Janet's work with Pain Free Crafts. I do believe you can still pick this up as a Jan Lynn kit if you want, but it's not full coverage. So this one received 100 stitches. So just filling out this petal down here. So that's Summer Montage. And then the last temperature whip I worked on last week was for the number 5, and that is Spring Garden Band Sampler, which is the Sal from Stitching Cabin this year. So I'm working in the January section, and this one got 100 stitches. So all I did was continue filling in the top band. So I really like the way that's working out. Sorry, the light's not great today. I'm recording in the late afternoon. And this is stitched on 1/1 on 40 count in a fabric that I dyed myself in the colourway Elizabeth. So that was my temperature stitching for the last 7 days. So then moving on, we'll do what was my Deck of Whips piece last week. So it was Pandemic by Long Dog Samplers, and I'm stitching this on a piece of 32 count Zweigart fabric in the colourway Platinum. And this is where I am on the whole piece. And then this is where I stitched last week. Oh, that's terrible. Which was that central motif here, this whole central motif here. And I'm just stitching this 2/2 in random Silks for You threads that I have. Some came from the Sassy Pouch, and then I'm using those ones up first, and then when I run out of those, I will just start picking other random colours that I've got from Silks from You, from mystery packs and threads of the month and things like that. So I'm only stitching one skein and then in the colour, because that's all I've got, and then moving on to the next colour. So that's 2 silk threads over 2 on 32 count Platinum Belfast from Zweigart. And that got 400 stitches. Even though Deck of Whips is only 300, I tacked on an extra 100 to complete another prompt that I had. Then we'll look at the 3 projects that I worked on in the last week that actually met their monthly goals. So the first one is Band of Braves, another Long Dog sampler. This one is being stitched on 32 count as well on an even weave though. This is a colourway that I dyed myself called Galvanised Bucket. This is where the project is in total. And then this month I've been working over on this side. So this got 1,200 stitches in the last week. So I completely finished off the black in the 2 bison, and then started up here filling in the colours in those kind of circly motifs. I really like the way this one's stitching up. It's coming up so much more colourful than the cover picture. Unfortunately though, that's going away, but I'm pretty certain we'll probably be back next month. But I'm just not sure yet. I'm still finalising my plans for next month. The next one I worked on was Castle Sampler. This is from 2x2 Stitch Art on Etsy. And I'm stitching this one on a 40 count Platinum in Silks for You from their winter pack. They do seasonal packs, and I think there was this winter pack from 2024. So I'm doing this 1/2 on 40 count in the silks, and this is where we are, or where I am. Sorry, I keep using that royal we and it drives me insane. So basically what I did was just filled in this across here in the green, and then all down the side and all across the bottom, and that was 500 stitches. So I don't have a complete plan for the colours yet. I'm just picking a colour when I get to a section, but I'm trying to stick to the 6 colours that were in the collection. Oh, sorry, it was the winter pack from 2023, so that's even worse. So these are the 3 colours I haven't actually used yet, 2 variegateds and a grey. And then the other colours are in plastic bags. That's the green and the light grey around the outside, and then the bluey purpley colour. So that was all the colours from that seasonal pack. And picked it because it had grey, and I thought grey would be from the castles. But I was enabled on that one by another lady who stitches in the Down Under Divas group, and she stitched that in a really beautiful colourway. And so I just had to buy that pattern. One of the problems of running a group is you get enabled. Next up was Modern Folk Embroidery sale from 2023. So this one I'm stitching in a different colourway, and I'm doing this on 40 count on a piece of fabric I dyed myself in the colourway Pasture. My colourway consists of a yellow, which is DMC 3852, and a green, which is cloth bound from Cottage Garden threads. So it's a variegated green. And I worked in the January, this is where the piece is in total. Quite a big piece. But I worked up in the January section, because it's January, and filled in this yellow section here in the border over here. Filled in all of that, and last week I did 400 stitches, which is all of that pattern down the bottom and then a couple of the little teethy sections up the top. So that was 400 stitches, and that has now met its goal for the month. Not sure when we'll see that one again. But it's got a yearly goal of 3,000 stitches, so it will come out again. And then the other piece that I worked on in the week didn't actually meet its monthly goal yet. So this is Sugar Glider from Cottage Garden Samplings. It's part of the Year of the Woods 2 series, so it's the one that's coming out this year. This is being stitched on a piece of forest floor fabric that I dyed myself in 40 count, again 1/1, and I'm using the called for DMC, and there's a couple of Weeks Dye Works in there as well. I'll find out what colours they are for you next week, but I know this dark brown is one of the weeks. This last week, I just started filling in part of the tree. I just felt I needed some easy stitching when I pulled this one out. So this is the Sugar Glider from Cottage Garden Samplings. And it's on a really big piece of fabric because I'm hoping to be able to do quite a few of the other Cottage Garden Sampling pieces on the same fabric. I do have some from the previous year started, and you'll see them as the year goes on, but they're all on pieces for just 3. So I was doing the seasons. Don't know if I'll do autumn, but I have started winter and spring. And I do like the one with the bear, and I think that one's summer, but I don't know if I'll do autumn. So I'll just have to see how we go with those ones. So then plans for next week. So next week will be temperature stitching, of course, and then also next week or this coming week we'll also finish the month. So January finishes on Saturday, as I'm sure you all know. So I'll be able to show you what's left of my monthly goals, and so what we can expect to see at the end of next week. So for temperature stitching, the temperatures next week are pretty boring. So starting from today and going through Saturday, we've got 19, 23, 33, which I'm not looking forward to, 23, 23, 23, and 22. So 19 is Letters from Hogwarts by Cunning Cross Stitch. This is where is it gone? There it is. This is a retired piece. It was a mystery stitch your own adventure pattern when it came out. I believe that Stuart this is now retired and been removed from his Facebook page. I believe if you go over to his Facebook page now, there is another stitch your own adventure style mystery sale that focuses on Middle Earth, so like hobbits, Lord of the Rings, those kinds of things. So if that's your idea of a good time, you like that, then perhaps head over there and check out his stitch along for that. So this is where I'm up to. At the moment, I'm just filling in any random ninja stitches in and around the trees and the cottage. There's a little bit of back stitching to do on the little animal, which I can't remember the name of, and I should be able to. And then I don't really want to use the Q-snap. I don't think I'll need to come down there, but if I do, I might work on the letters. So this will get 100 stitches in the next week. And this is on a piece of 32 count fabric that was dyed for me by Crafty Leanie, specifically for that project, so I don't think it's readily available. But just know if you do need something custom dyed, she can do that for you. Next up, Summer Montage is the number 3 piece. So this got called 5 times in the next week. So that will get 500 stitches. So we'll just finish off working down here and probably start back up here again. I don't think there's a lot of stitches left in this rose section, so I'll be looking forward to moving on to the next section with this one. I don't think I said before, this is actually 25 count easy grid or easy count. I can never remember what the difference is. Then obviously number 2 was assigned to the little number 3 piece. So for that one, we do need to bring a new piece into the mix. And this is going to be Sampler Patchwork Squares. This is by Nara Cross Stitch on Etsy. This was a new start last year for me, so I haven't got in September for my birthday. So I haven't made a lot of progress, but this will be our starting point for the week, and it's only going to get 100 stitches. So this is where I am. And that'll just get 100 stitches. I really like the way this is stitching up. But the greens and the oranges kind of my colours, so I really like that one. So that will get 100 stitches for the number 2. So then moving into what is left of my monthly goals for January. So first up, Witching Hour, which is by Lisa Parker, charted by Haid. And this reminds me of my black cat. He might pop in during one video. They usually spend the days outside. This is where I'm at, and this needs another 400 stitches this month. And this is stitched on a piece of 25 count charcoal, just Weigart fabric, 1/1. So that's Witching Hour. Then I've got Japanese Crane. This has got another 200 stitches to go in it for the month. This is by Whoopie Cat on Etsy. And this is where I'm at. So 200 stitches to go in that. And I'm pretty sure this one will come out next month too. That's that one. And that's on 22 count Hardanger 1/1. Then I've got 13th Colony Bay. So this is a piece by the Bay Noodle Art. It's 3 patterns actually joined together. I'm not going to pull it out of the Q-snap, but I've stitched the whole middle section, which is the section with the 2 trees either side framing it. And now I'm stitching the left-hand side with the spiky central tree and the ship. And this is where I'm up to. This is a piece of 32 count, I think it's Perman linen, in the colourway, I believe it's French Rain. And so I'll probably finish off filling in this part here, maybe fill in the house, and could do some water, but it only needs another 200 stitches, so that won't actually be much. It's a big piece. And then Cake Shop, which I've been avoiding for the whole month because it's a very confetti heavy piece and it's probably bad that I've left it all to the last week. So this is the little Cake Shop by artwork by Amy Stewart, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. This is the max colour version, so there's over 200 colours in this piece. So it needs another 900 stitches. And this is where I'm up to. Excuse all the frames. So I'm obviously working this going down in the rows, and I think I've just started right up in the top again. So 900 stitches will get us about halfway down, maybe to around that dark blue section in the middle of another column. And this is being stitched on 25 count, just a piece of antique white. Nothing fancy, it's full coverage. Usually when I choose a colour to stitch a full coverage on, whether it's charcoal or red or I've got a pink one, it's because the background colour is quite complementary to the stitching. I wouldn't choose to stitch something really white on something blue, and I also don't really like to use hand dyes for them because why would I want to cover up all that beautiful fabric with full coverage stitching? So yeah, I just tend to usually do full coverage on white or antique white or something boring like that. But if I do stitch it on a colour, it's usually for a reason. So the last thing we need to do today is do deck of whips. So I've removed the 3 cards that have already been drawn. Do a quick shuffle to see what we're stitching next week. So the card that we're drawing today is Jack of Spades. So for me, the Jack of Spades is right down the bottom, Mum and Baby. So I'll go and grab that and show you what it is. Okay, I'm back. So Mum and Baby for me is this. This was the first cross stitch, or the cross stitch that brought me back to cross stitching back in 2018. So prior to 2018, I'd taken a hiatus from cross stitching for probably 20-ish years. I was quite an avid stitcher in my teenage years and a little bit into my early 20s, but then stopped. And then I started diamond painting. And then I found this piece and I really wanted to diamond paint it. And kitting up a diamond painting in Tasmania, Australia a few years ago, back in 2018, was quite challenging. Getting a blank canvas, ordering in all the drills, just sounded all too confusing. So I headed off to my local LNS, which was owned by the previous owner, Marianne, and she helped me kit this one up as a cross stitch, because that's what you do when you come back to cross stitch. You start a massive full coverage. Now this is being stitched on 18 count, which I'll never stitch another full coverage on, 2/2. I don't like 18 count, but we're persevering with this one because we've got a lot of work in it. So this is artwork by Anya Kai. I love the piece, obviously charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. I'm not going to pull it out of the Q-snap, so you'll just see where it currently is. But I have basically stitched down. I can't show you on the pattern. I'll just leave it there. You might be able to work it out. So this is where I am up to. So I have stitched a bit more over this way into the mother's eye. Not a lot though. And at the moment, I'm obviously over here. But I think I did this pink for a colour challenge, so it just depends what kind of crops up in the next week as to where I work, but most likely it'll just be working down here and then starting the next row. So I love this piece. I don't love the fabric. I don't like the way I'm stitching it, but it was my first piece back. Still got a long way to go. So we're just going to persevere until it's done. But you'll never see me stitch another full coverage on 18 count. Not my thing. I would much rather 25 count or 28 count, which is my new kind of preferred. I don't think I said, but Sampler Patchwork Squares is actually on a 28 count, and the hay sale that I did last year is on a 28 count. So that's my plans for the next week. I do have a few stitches up my sleeve, around 700 that haven't been allocated for the week. They will either go into Spring Garden Band Sampler, or I don't have a lot of useful whips for challenges in the coming week. So depending on what the fandom weekly challenges are, I may pull in a few extra whips just to meet those challenges because they're 200 stitches each. So there may be some surprises next week. You never know. Thanks so much for joining me. If you did like what you saw today, maybe think about subscribing. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you've got any questions, if I forgot to give you any pertinent information or you'd like to know a bit more about any of my projects. I think I'm doing an okay job at the moment. I've been coming back every week, which is really good. And yeah, thanks so much for coming and thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again on next Sunday. Bye.